choosing quality over quantity, or the other way around. So then you have two options on the skateboard when it comes to doing a trick. You could choose to go quality. That means you try to make the most perfect trick. You choose one trick, very well done, or you do it very filled with style, filled with amazing elements in one trick. It could be a line, let's say one clip, one skateboard clip. Or you could choose to do quantity, which would be do a lot of unimportant tricks that the wholeness of that becomes much larger because you have much more clips, but they are not quality in themselves. But when you see them together like that, then they become filled with quality, let's say. So it's, what should you choose? What has the most quality? Is it quantity of tricks or quality? And then you can say, well, obviously quality is better, but then you get less clips. Then you get so little, it would take forever to make a video part. And then you can say quantity, but then again, then you don't get any good tricks. Yeah, so you don't get to be at your best level. That's the problem with filming a video part, is when you're gonna film something, then you have a time frame, so you don't get to get your best tricks necessarily. Getting your best tricks takes much more time, and when you're at a spot, you're only at the spot maybe one time, and then you're going to go to another place and you're not going to return. So you kind of have to compromise and take the trick you got there, because that's the best you got given the time and space. So that would be attempting to create quality, but not achieving it. So that's the risk. That's the risk with quality, is that you put all your cards on just one thing. So with quantity, you would have a lot of different things, and if you don't get any trick, for example, at one spot, still you have a lot of other clips to take from. But with quality, it's you lose a lot if you lose that clip, or if you can't film it, or if you can't make it. For example, if you use a whole day to get one trick, or you use a whole day to get 5 clips, then if you try to get 5 clips, at least you have something. So with quality, then you can lose it all if you, for example, break your foot or break your board, or suddenly you get kicked out because then you have used hours and hours on one trick, and then you can't get the trick because the security guard comes, or the police or something, or your friend has to go to a hospital or go to his grandma's birthday or something like this. So there's problems with both, but quality gives the best result if you're gonna judge clip by clip. So if you're gonna try to go for trick of the year, then maybe going for quality would be the way to go. But it's not for certain. Depends on your level, of course, but it's not for certain that would actually give you the best result. Because you might think that going for quality will give you better tricks than going for quantity. But when we see it in practice, we don't see that to be the case, because trying to go for quality can make you so stressed, can make you so anxious that you're not able to perform, because the focus is so much on trying to have an incredible quality, and then everything you try is not good enough, and you're not motivated, and you're not excited, and the excitement needs to drive you in order to be very good. So trying to go for quality can have its flaws, right? And there's of course there's one more problem, is that we have yet not reached perfection. That means that we haven't gotten to the point where there's no flaws in anything we do. So a perfectionist doesn't exist, because a perfectionist never does anything. So a perfectionist will never do anything, because perfect has yet not been achieved. So nobody has achieved perfect, so that person can't exist, because nobody has achieved it. So a perfectionist doesn't exist. But when we call someone a perfectionist, we mean someone who is so focused on the small details or the small perfection or the small things that has to be in place, like a very tiny thing. Let's say there's a tiny bit of noise in a long skate movie you made, like a little noise that shouldn't be there, like a little or something like that, and then you have to change the noise and export the video again, even though it's multiple hours and that will take days to export, and you export it again just because of this little noise. So that's being a perfectionist, or what we call a perfectionist, the colloquial sense of the term. But then again, an actual perfectionist doesn't exist, but what we call a perfectionist is someone who is super focused on these small things. And that's the problem, that the more perfect you try to be, the less you will create, right? And it might be the case that what you create is more quality, but it's not for certain the case, right? So it might be that if you go with a quantity mindset, then the overall quality will actually be better because the stress is low, you're more excited, it's easier for you to start filming, you're trying more things, and you're developing more skills because you try a broad range of things, and that creates sort of a superhuman skill set in your skating. So that's important to consider. Yeah. And next point that we should discuss in terms of being perfect or choosing quantity is that quantity is not doesn't mean less quality in skating. In skating is a little peculiar, because let's say you're trying to go with quantity, and then you will do just whatever trick, whatever silly trick. You see a curb, you try to kickflip down it and film it. I mean, stuff like that. If you keep doing those things, then yeah, I agree, you can waste your time. But if you're focused on the idea, that you want to present a special idea, for example, you want to present the idea of jumping from the roof or grinding from the roof through the living room and landing in the basement, or do a line that goes from a roof until the basement, and then after you will do a line that goes from the basement to the roof. And if you want to present that idea, because first you go down, then you go up, so it's sort of symmetrical, it fits together, let's say, and you want to explain that, then if you go with quality, that might take years, and it might never be created. Like, it might be completely impractical to bring to reality. So then you have to compromise on some quality in order to save time, because I mean, there's the quality output. When we say quality over quantity, we're talking about the output that we want there, or the result, the actual product. We want the product to be better than worse. So we want it to be as good as possible. But then we might sacrifice some friendships on quality friendships because they have to film us all the time. They stop hanging out with us because we use so much time on it. We might not spend the time on the things we want that makes us happy in life. For example, we require a 30-minute bath every night or something, and then we can't have that because we're so focused on quality. So we can get a lower quality life but a higher quality product, let's say. So that's also important to take into your life equation. It's outside of this equation. I just created a new equation. So I went from the actual trick equation to a broader one, like a broader perspective, and it's maybe some sort of red herring, but it's important to consider, because essentially skateboarding, what we are trying is to get a better life. Really, like, we're trying to get good tricks because that creates a better life. So if the good tricks makes a sacrifice on a good life, then maybe it's not important to get a good trick anymore. Maybe we shouldn't do it because our life will be worse, let's say. So of course, important to consider. But then if you go quantity, here's my idea, that if you come up with a lot of different ideas, then you can randomly stumble on genius instead of just going with one idea and trying to perfect that one. For example, let's say you have a trick that is a dark slide back roll with the board. Like, you do a dark slide and you do a kind of backflip while rolling on your back, and you land in a dark slide again. And then you try to perfect that trick all the time. And you use days and weeks and all your time on perfecting that. And you could do that, or you could do a shitty version of that trick, which would be sketchy. You do a tic-tac, and then you take it, because you've proven that you got to present the idea, and there is a tic-tac, but I mean, the focus here is the idea, not the trick. I mean, it depends on your value system, of course. If you value being clean more than you value showing off a lot of ideas, it depends. But then after you do a shitty version of that, then you can go to the next idea, which would be something like pole jam. Let's say a pole jam kickflip. Like the board does a kickflip around the pole jam in the air, like a hip jump kind of pole jam thing, for example. And then you can go do that, and then after you do a shitty version of that, then you can go do not a spin head spin, for example, not a spin breakdance head spin, right? For example, on some kind of hydrant or something, and then you have another idea. So that way you get to present a lot of new ideas into skateboarding. That when you present that initial sample of a skateboard trick, then you can inspire people to build further on that. Because, I mean, all of this depends on your goal. So the goal of this person who prefers the quantity of ideas is to randomly stumble upon something that is genius, and it's also making people aware that, hey, this is possible on a skateboard, versus the person who tries to do the quality thing, which want to show, hey, I'm a genius, I'm a king, I can do everything perfectly, and I'm trying to show you that. I'm trying to be as good as possible, and you will enjoy watching that. So the first person who just throws out ideas gives building blocks for people, while the other person who tries to be as perfect as possible is sort of a performer who wants to be appreciated. So it's trying to be appreciated versus trying to build skateboarding. Those are the two different ways. I mean, that seems to be where quality and quantity seems to be related. A person who wants to give something versus a person who wants to show off something and maybe inspire people by his talent. Like, hope people will be inspired by him being super good, and then other people will try to be as good as him. It could be. Or you could have a person who just say, hey, all of these things are possible. You don't have to be like a pro in order to do this. You can just go out and experiment and do something really, really amazing. Because essentially, what we're realizing in skateboarding is that we're not trying to... The goal is not to have the best skateboarders ever. I mean, skateboarding doesn't seem to function like that anymore. It seems to function like we're trying to have really, really... we're trying to have people who are maybe not that good, but who give something that people are interested in. So it's more entertainment. I mean, if you look at mainstream entertainment, there's not that many talented people there. Like, there's much more talented people that are not famous than the people in show business. The people in show business are maybe okay, but they are entertaining. That's why they get to do what they do, because they are entertaining people. But you don't need to be competent in order to entertain, or at least not incredibly competent. You need some kind of basic competence, of course, but it's not necessarily the case that the better you are, the more entertaining you are. Although that tends to be a thing in skateboarding, that the best skaters tend to be the one who takes to them the most eyeballs. But now we're seeing these YouTube skaters and people who are amateurs who are very inspiring to up and coming skateboarders. And then who is bringing the most quality? The people who are entertaining people but not that competent, or the people who are also entertaining people, but full of competence? I mean, the answer is not so straightforward. I mean, it might be that the person who is not that competent is actually more entertaining than some kind of pro, because the better you become and the cleaner you become, the more you remind people of a robot. When you take away all the flaws, or what we call flaws, then you end up with basically a robot, because they do everything perfect. There is one way to do it. There is one perfect way, or one systematic result that should come from this, and if you reach that result, you have succeeded. If you don't reach it, you have to try again. So people try to reach this one place, and trying to reach that one place makes people seem robotic. So in that way, being for quality can actually backfire. That it doesn't become better. It can make you worse. So another example, in music, for example, I make a lot of music, a lot of beats on my computer now, and then there's a trend to try to make something realistic, because everything in the computer can make everything perfect. So in classical music, people are trying to hit the notes perfectly, right, at the same time, with the perfect velocity distributed on both hands. Right, so the computer can do this perfectly. But now that the computer can do it, now we're trying to get back the same feeling that people were doing before we had a computer, which was making uneven notes, and some notes were louder than the others, and you could hear that they don't hit the same notes at the same time, and there's something nostalgic about it, and that's appreciated a lot in music, because we're able to make it perfect, but we choose to skew it. Because now the talent, or now competence, has changed from trying to make something perfect to trying to make something realistic. And realistic means trying to make it like it was before. So that's an interesting shift. That you might say quality is hitting the notes perfectly, but I wouldn't agree. I would say quality in music would be what takes from what creates inside of you the best feeling, or the most accurate feeling, or brings to you incredible emotion. So if a piece of music can make you feel very emotional, or in a certain mood, or change your mood, or suit your mood, and really speak to your persona, then that will be quality, but not hitting the notes perfectly. I mean, hitting the note perfectly can help assist, and hitting the notes rhythmically certainly helps bring out that empathetic feeling in music from you, but it's not necessarily the thing that makes you feel that way. And that's what we are starting to understand now with electronic music, that if you hit the notes perfectly all the time, then you're taking away a lot of the emotion from it, and in a way the music is worse. So you have to make it more realistic, more humane, because we like things that are humane and still very good. So the answer, which one is the best, quality or quantity? I'd say quantity could give you an overall greater quality. I mean, of course, depends on the person. I mean, you might be a person who likes to perfect on this, and you don't get stressed by trying to perfect your style, and you still skate all the time, and you're motivated to skate all the time, even though you have a requirement for yourself to be perfect. I mean, that's possible, but I'm saying it can prevent you from doing a lot of tricks. You might say, I'm not going to do this trick because no way I'm going to land this perfect. So you don't even try it, but you could have done it, and maybe accidentally you land it perfect, or maybe you land it sketchy. But skateboarding comes from a rough background in the 90s, where the era where where it was most acceptable to be sketchy, let's say, or maybe the starting era of skateboarding. But the 90s, it were completely acceptable to be sketchy. You could do a trick and land like whatever. I mean, if you land clean, of course it's better, but there wasn't that strong requirement for cleanliness in skateboarding, and that was very exciting. So the point there was that these things shift, and if everybody becomes perfect, or you find a way to make skateboarding to land perfectly on the skateboard, then suddenly we will try to make skateboarding more sketchy or with a feeling to it. Like when it becomes so robotic, like it seems to be turning into, then we're gonna appreciate the people who make it look authentic, who have some kind of personal flair in it. Like you might have a dancer who strictly goes up and down and to the side at exactly the correct place, but the person who really shows themselves in the dance is the one who's gonna be the most appreciated, and also is gonna be, I guess you could call them more realistic. They seem more relatable, let's say. So I mean, choosing quality over quantity, it depends on your goal.